All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Talking some hoops. 6 games on DK, 7 on FanDuel. So FanDuel did include Milwaukee and Phoenix. Of course, we will have projections, everything as always. We mainly talk DK, though. We will touch on those 6 games. Rio will have showdown content like usual, slate plan, his rankings, little core play on there as well. Again, projections updated throughout, but that's the broad slate overview. 6 games, DK, 7 FanDuel. Rio, throw it to you, my man. How you doing on this fine Tuesday afternoon?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I got the trade talks heating up this week. Trade deadline a couple days away. Eager to see what my Jazz will do. A lot of talk around some players I'm pretty excited about. We'll see how it goes, though. Usually it's a pretty big letdown, but yeah, definitely a lot of changing parts. Could see some guys even in games today get traded. I know there's a couple people, some Chicago trade news. And that's mainly it. Maybe some Dallas stuff too. But yeah, looking forward to the slate though. Just got the slate plan up before we went live about an hour and a half ago. Enjoyed talking about writing up those games and looking forward to talking about these games today.
Yeah, I saw you put in Discord. You wrote the slate plan. You said you really like this slate. Excited to talk through it. So I'm excited to talk through this slate with you. Huge weekend over here. Obviously, the crew, we will be in Phoenix. I mean, I'm not going too far, but Waste Management season, Super Bowl this week, MMA going on this week as well. Big NHL slate. I think I saw as well today. Lots of action like usual. Head over to SHIPIT.com. All sports, one price. I don't know if people saw it out there, but on the old Twitter machine at SHIPITNation.com, little photo booth finish, NASCAR, 2 cars going there. That's all I'll say there, but a lot of very fun, exciting stuff on the horizon at SHIPITNation.com. And oh my gosh, I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah,
could be Travis. You are the man. And yes, shout out Hebrew slate plan last night, ship 5,000. Let's run it back. Could be Travis. You are absolutely the man for that. I don't even know where that goes. I'm going to have to tell Tambo. We have a YouTube donation. Could be Travis, always in here. Been crushing a lot of sports. So shout out you. And yeah, shout out Rio, of course. Always puts in a lot of work on that slate plan. Top tier, mid tier, lower tier. Digs in depth. A lot of stats. He talks about a lot on this show game by game as well. So if you're not a member, you can't afford it. Hey, we appreciate you just being in the YouTube chat. But we really do appreciate that. Could be Travis. Have never been on a show and seen that one before. Michael W. Ben's in here. Pair by Danny in here. Jordan, Sean Sullivan, William, Jake's in here. Beach, Brock. What's going on, Brock? Who else we got in here? Eddie's in here. Gator Nation, Mark, Cool Hands. I already said Sean Sullivan. Jake's in here, or Sean V's in here. Appreciate everyone hanging out like always. A lot of familiar faces. Drew in here. Hope your weekend going well. A lot of golf this week. Super Bowl Sunday, baby. MMA, NBA going on right now. Time to make some money. Before getting into game by game, Rio, any initial thoughts? Like the trades, are you handling it any different? These Q tags like Tyrese, Brooke Lopez, some of these guys, Luka's, any leans on them? Obviously, we'll touch game by game, but any initial thoughts?
I don't really think there's super big news in terms of trade deadline stuff. I mean, Jordan Clarkson's been kind of in trade talks, so maybe he gets moved. I doubt that it would happen tonight, but I mean, outside of that, I mean, they talk about like DeMar DeRozan. I feel like that's kind of long shot stuff. In terms of the injuries, though, Tyrese probably going to be playing. He's been listed with the same Q tag since he's returned from the hamstring injury. They're just monitoring his minutes right now. Luka with a nasal fracture. That could hold him out. It's different. He's been dealing with a lot of lower body injuries, so a nasal fracture could be something that holds him out. Obviously, we'll get that news right around slate locking, so that could definitely change some things. We'll talk a little if-then scenarios when you get to the game, but otherwise, not really any huge injury news that we're waiting on. A lot of the secondary pieces for OKC listed questionable, which could change up their rotation a little bit, but other than that, not too much.
Yeah, and then I will say, so I think Luka gets a bit of ownership, at least if he does play right now. He is Q-tag. That game's at 7:30 Eastern. So how the slate's broken down, pretty easy in terms of like that injury news. Rockets Pacers on the island at 7. 3 games at 7:30 Eastern. Dallas, Brooklyn, Orlando, Miami, Memphis, New York. Then we got 1 game at 8, Minnesota, the Bulls, and then 1 game at 9, OKC, Utah. FanDuel, they're including the Bucks Suns game at 10 Eastern, not on the DK slate though. So 3 games at 7:30. That Luka news is in there. We should get that hopefully before lock. Any other people? What's going on, Gregory? What's going on, Charlie? Kinline and always in here as well. Title no, without the hat on? Yeah, mixing it up a little bit, Colton. Nades is in here. What's going on, Nades? Good luck tonight, NBA, NHL streets. Said hi to everybody in chat. 6 games on the docket. Let's go game by game. First one of the night. Again, like button helps us out a ton. Subscribe button helps us out as well. Rockets, Pacers, 7 p.m. Eastern, 244 total. Pacers favored by 8. Big news in this one, Fred VanVleet is out. They're probably going to be, I think it's going to be Amen Thompson. That's what a lot of projections have right now. Will probably be the most popular player on the slate. Could be Aaron Holiday too at 3.3K. If he starts and it's not Thompson, expect him to get some ownership. Tari Eason's still out. Steven Adams means nothing right now. Other side for the Pacers, Tyrese questionable. Jalen Smith questionable. I'll throw it right to you in this one. Touch on first if you think it'll be Amen Thompson or Holiday. Of course, we will get that starter. Again, if it is Thompson, one of the most chalky plays on the slate. Sengun going to get some ownership. Jabari Smith going to get some ownership. I do think Aaron Holiday, even if he comes off the bench, gets a little bit. If he starts, he will definitely be popular, though. Houston side, a lot more interesting than Indiana. Only guy in Indiana that I'm seeing with a little ownership, maybe Miles Turner. And touching on Jalen Smith, if he's out, if Turner gets a little bump there.
Yeah, so I'm expecting Amen Thompson to start tonight. There's been 3 instances where Fred VanVleet has been out this season. I believe 2 of the games was Aaron Holiday, and then the last game was against the Celtics, I believe. Amen Thompson got the start. And yeah, if he's starting, I think regardless, he's a really strong play tonight. I don't really have like a hot take to try to get away from it. I think that this is just a really good matchup for opposing guards against the Pacers. I'll definitely be eating that chalk, totally fine with it. 4.1K. He has really good numbers with Fred VanVleet off the court this season, so I'm not going to overthink that one. In terms of the Pacers side, I do expect Tyrese Halliburton to play. Jalen Smith probably more 50-50. I think slightly leaning to playing. Doesn't really change much in terms of the front court guys. I think we'll see same situation. Obi Toppin and Jalen Smith kind of split those power forward minutes, and then probably Jalen Smith fill in for a little bit of the center minutes as well. But I do think that Miles Turner could see his minutes get elevated here in this game against the matchup for Alperen Sengun. But yeah, the Pacers have been a team to attack from a DFS perspective. They've been obviously one of the fastest paced teams in the league, been pretty bad defensively with their rim defense. But since the start of 2024, they're a top 17 defensive rated team, which doesn't sound like much, but they were a bottom 5 team on the season. So they've gotten a little bit better. Interior defense has gotten a little bit better. They're starting to still a huge rim funnel, allowing the second least 3-point field goals per game. So I think some of these guys that are going to be scoring around the basket, Sengun, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, I guess, to a lesser degree, all in a pretty good spot here. Rockets been pretty solid defensively all season long, still one of the best transition defenses in the league, which is, obviously that's how the Pacers play. They like to get out running in transition. But they've been allowing a good amount of 3-pointers per game in the new year, around 14 per game in 2024 since the new year has started. But starting with the Rockets, yeah, Alperen Sengun going to see a bigger usage bump with no Fred VanVleet tonight. Sees his usage tick up to about 27.5%, 33% assist percentage with Fred off the court this season. Yeah, you would think that the Pacers, just with how bad they've been defensively, that centers would crush against them, but they've actually done a pretty decent job containing fantasy scorers at the center position. They're 14th overall in DVP to the center position. I think that you could possibly get away from Sengun coming in as one of the higher owned studs at 9K. Obviously, going to see more usage. Nothing wrong with that. He's going to be a really strong play tonight, but I do think there's ways to get away from it. Just with the Pacers playing much better defensively, I think that they could kind of hold him down to a floor-ish game, like just a median outcome type game, which is obviously you don't want that in GPPs. But he's a great play regardless. Jalen Green leads the way in usage in terms of from a usage standpoint with Fred VanVleet off the court this season, around a 30% usage rate, but only averages 37.1 DK points per 36 minutes. He's an extremely volatile player. If the shot's not falling, the floor could be extremely low for him. This is a good matchup for guards. The Pacers are allowing the second most points per game to shooting guards this season. Obviously going to see a bigger usage bump with no Fred VanVleet, so he's totally fine. Jabari Smith just been playing terribly lately, and that's kind of putting it nicely. He hasn't topped 16 DraftKings points in 3 straight games. Should be a pretty good bounce back spot for him. Pacers are bottom 3 in DVP to power forwards. I do like Cam Whitmore as a kind of lowish owned value option, 4.6K. He's been a really big beneficiary with Fred VanVleet off the court this season, has a 26% usage rate, almost averages 39 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. He's shown really big upside off the bench this season and in a pace-up spot. Versus a weak rim defense, I could see him having a pretty good game here at 4.6K. I already mentioned Alan Thompson. And then Aaron Holiday, I think he's cheap enough to make your player pool at 3.3K. Should get some backup point guard minutes, maybe a little bit of overlap with Alan Thompson shifting over to the 2. And then on the Pacers side, kind of easy to touch on. I don't think that you really get into many of these guys. The one I would prefer the most is Miles Turner. Really good price tag for him, 6K. Should be able to put up a pretty decent score if the 3-point shot's falling. Alperen Sengun is not the most, the scariest defensive matchup, and maybe Miles Turner sees his minutes tick up a little bit for the defense on Sengun. So I like him at 6K. I think Siakam he's okay at 8.3K. Did flirt with a triple-double last game, so he does have that going for him, but this is a much tougher matchup.
You touched a little bit about it, but I mean, those minutes from Jabari, especially earlier in the year, even a couple of weeks ago compared to now, night and day. Do you think a lot of it is he just playing bad? Is it just because Jeff Green, Tate, Whitmore, all these secondary pieces kind of are just eating into his minutes a little bit, and because he's playing so bad, he's just losing run? Or, I mean, man, he's going to get some ownership. 5.2K, it stands out without Fred VanVleet, but you look at that game log, especially the last 3 games, minutes have fallen off brutally. Usage is non-existent. Is there any deeper thing you think into this, like rotation-wise or something?
No, I just think it's bad variance. It was a really tough matchup versus Minnesota, obviously, and then the Pelicans been really solid defensively all year long. So I would think that the floor is really low for him. I think that he's just going through a rough patch right now. I think that he could definitely turn around. I don't think that they're going to be going away from him or anything like that. Just bad variance running his way.
Any group of ways you'd have in this game? Like, you'd be fine with Amen Thompson, Aaron Holiday, even expecting Holiday to come off the bench because of the price tag, right? And, like, if it gets you up to a Luka, you're not going to group away. I mean, I'm not seeing any group ways in this. I think that really the only one would maybe be Thompson, Holiday, but I think because of their prices, I'd be totally fine with it. And again, Thompson, assuming he starts, that dude, higher stakes tournaments, like 30-man tournaments, I mean, he might be 90% owned, something like that. Flagship, you could be seeing 60, 65. So good play. I mean, it's chalk I'm eating, but you're not no group aways or anything you see?
I don't think so. I don't think that you really need to get too crazy with it. These guys are cheap enough I think you could play them together.
Yeah. I mean, no Fred VanVleet, so Houston side for sure. Thompson, great play. Thinks Jabari Smith's fine. Aaron Holiday for value. Sengun going to get ownership. Very strong center play. Good spend up, though. I think Jalen Green's a solid play. Dylan Brooks, Cam Whitmore, all of those guys are in play for me on the Houston side. Indiana, really just Miles Turner or bust is how I'm seeing this one. So first game of the night on an island, Houston and Indiana. We will keep it rolling. What's going on, Evan? Back from Florida. Missed you. Was wondering where you're at. Good to see you back. Jenna, appreciate it. Still searching around, looking at best prices, everything to account. Hey, we'll still be here, Jenna. So if you do want to.
Sandy is my mom's last name. I wonder if she's in the Minnesota area.
Hey, Jenna, let us know if you're in the Minnesota area right there. What do we think of the Pacers? Just talked about that, Jake. Really just Miles Turner or bust for us. You had no one else, right? Like he said Nembhard. There was no one else you talked about. Siakam, Nesmith.
I mean, Nesmith is playing really well right now, so I don't think that he's the craziest play. He's been one of the better, just like most efficient 3-point shooters this season, especially as of late. I mean, the numbers have been crazy. He has a 40-point game, 57-point game, 40-point game. So I think that you could definitely keep him in your player pool. Rockets are funneling more of their defense to 3-point shooters right now. and he's playing a ton of minutes. He's kind of their most trusted guy from a minute standpoint. So I don't think that Nesmith is the craziest play.
Sounds good. He'll be sub 10% owned. Yeah, has some upside right there. And again, if Tyrese was to be ruled out, though, then stuff would change. Some of these Pacers, like a Nesmith, Nembhard, would become better plays. Keep it rolling. Next game on the slate, Dallas Mavericks, Brooklyn Nets, 235 total. Dallas favored by 4. I will say on that Pacers-Rockets game, that's the highest total on the slate. 6-game slate. 3 all similar. Houston, Indiana, Dallas, Brooklyn, and then OKC, Utah. Then 3 very low ones, Minnesota, Chicago, Grizzlies, New York, Orlando, Miami. Doesn't always work out that way for like interest level in DFS, injuries, usage, minutes, etc. Top all of like pace of play and stuff. But on this slate, I think it does determine a lot of what I'm looking at. The higher pace games I do have more interest in. Right here, Dallas, Brooklyn, we have Luka as a Q tag. Very important, obviously. If he's out, the whole slate flips on its head. Kyrie, by far, very, very popular. All these secondary Tim Hardaways of the world would get some ownership. Lively's out. Dante Exum's out for Dallas as well. As far as the Brooklyn side, Cam Johnson out. Dorian Finney-Smith out. Lonnie Walker out. Darian Sharp still out as well. Start on the Nets side for me. I think it's the more interesting side. It's just Luka or Kyrie for me on Dallas, and I probably would max 1. I guess you can start there because I think it'll take a lot less time on the Dallas side. Would you set that rule? Then on the Nets side, back-to-back, Lonnie got hurt in that game yesterday. Now no Cam Johnson, who had a great game. They're pretty thin. These Nets, some of them are pretty interesting for me.
Yeah, I'll just kind of echo what you said about the Mavericks. Probably be a max 1, Luka and Kyrie. I have a slight lean to Kyrie, just easier matchup. I expect Luka to probably get either one of Royce O'Neal or Mikal Bridges. Obviously, Luka is great. Matchups don't even matter that much. He's only gone 7 here. He's never top 7x his current price tag at $12K. You're going to need 70 plus. And I think that there's a little bit less likely that he does that with Kyrie back. Kyrie does take away a little bit of usage from Luka. And then for that reason, I'll just side with Kyrie. He looked pretty good in his return last night. Was on his way to a big minutes game too, but the game started to get out of hand. It only got to 35 minutes, but I think he was on his way to close to 40 minutes. So I think that he's fully back, no limitations from him, just a thumb injury. So I think that he's totally fine. 8.5K, very good price tag for him. And the Brooklyn side, yeah, like you said, they're going to be without Lonnie Walker, without Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith tonight. So they have to fill in some of those minutes. The guys that I think would benefit the most, Dennis Smith Jr. and Royce O'Neal. I think Royce is a really good value option tonight, 4.1K. I do think that there are some ways to get away from him, and I'll mention some guys in some later games when we get there. But as it stands right now, him and Amen Thompson, the best values on the slate. Do expect Royce to play pretty big minutes tonight and a pretty good matchup. So I like him a ton. I think Dennis Smith Jr. has a ton of upside, more upside than Royce O'Neal in this matchup. We did see him fill in for Lonnie Walker last night. He got up to like 36, 38 DraftKings points, something like that. But he should play a ton here. Defense going to be needed for Kyrie Irving. I like him a lot, 4.2K, really reasonable price tag. And then the guys up top, Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, I think are totally fine as well. The Mavericks have been pretty bad defensively in 2024. Bottom 7 defensive rating. They've been getting killed in transition. Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, the 2 best transition offensive players on the net side of things. And Cam Thomas, really big usage rate with all of these current injuries. The Cam Johnson, Lonnie, Dorian Finney-Smith off the floor this season has a 36% usage rate. And we know that he's got a massive ceiling just from a real scoring perspective. We could see him get 40 plus points in this game. I think that he's a really, really solid GPP play. I prefer him to Mikal Bridges. I mean, both coming in with a good amount of ownership, but Mikal kind of nearing 40%, depending where you're looking. So I think those are the 2 guys that you're considering up top. I think Claxton is he's fine to mix in. Mavericks been a little bit better with their rim defense, but he's playing a ton of minutes right now. They don't really have a true backup center, so I think that he could see his minutes get up after he got tossed with a flagrant 2 last night. I know some people in our Discord had him. He was off to a pretty good start. And then Maxi Kleber, I'll mention him on the Dallas side of things. He's been playing really well last 2 games, 4.5K. Should continue to get the start at the center position. I think that he's fine. Not projecting very well right now, so this is kind of a Hamwich negative value type play, but he's been playing really well. I think that kind of covers it all though.
Yeah, for me, it's easy. Kleber will be low owned. Jake mentioned him too. If you want to go that route, it's Luka or Kyrie. I think it was Sean B mentioned. Yeah, or no, William. Kyrie revenge lock. Hey, I mean, we just talked about KD going to Brooklyn with no revenge in his bones. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyrie had some revenge. Always revenge. So good price tag. Probably max one to Luka. I'm good with both. Net side, a lot more interesting, like we talked about, I think. And so Dinwiddie's by far my least favorite. I think there's 6 in play, and that's the Royce O'Neals, Bridges, Dennis Smith Jr., Cam Thomas, Claxton, Dinwiddie. Dinwiddie's definitely number 6 on the list by a wide margin. I mean, man, usage is falling off a cliff. He did get up to 39 minutes yesterday. So if there ever was a spot at 5-3 for him to get there, I mean, he shot awful yesterday. Maybe this is the spot, but talk about ceiling. It just doesn't feel like his upside's there. So I'm good with Claxton, though, a loaded center position. People go in Sengun if they spend up. Only so many spend up options. I think he's interesting in the mid-tier. No Lively going against Kleba. Dwight Powell, I'm fine with that. I love Cam Thomas. The dude just absolutely chucks every slate. 7.3K. Of course, he needs to make shots. He shot the ball 4 for 21 yesterday, 0 for 6 from deep, and still put up 32 DK points. 32% usage. Like, give me a guy with no unconscious, no filter, and he'll just chuck whether it's going in, whether it's not. So I love Cam Thomas playing upper 30s minutes. Give me Bridges playing upper 30s minutes. He's going to be higher owned than Cam Thomas right there. The shooting guard, small forward for Bridges, point guard, shooting guard for Cam. Think you can play them both. Cam's 100 more, though, and should come at an ownership discount. So if I had to pick one, I would go to Cam Thomas there. Dennis Smith, Royce O'Neal, both very solid plays. I'm with you. I do prefer Dennis Smith and his upside, but because of the position eligibility, small forward, power forward, Royce makes a lot work at 4.1K. Probably will get Luka assignment. He'll be out there for defense, can fall some rebounds, can fall in his lap. So yeah, Brooklyn side, very good. 6 guys in play. Dinwiddie by far my least favorites. Kyrie, Luka, max 1 is how I see this game going. Any other Dinwiddie straight buns? Let's have a night wins a lot. Any chance Kleber sits and Holmes gets to start? Do you see that at all against Claxton? I don't think they'd go that route against in this matchup. Do you?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think Kleber, they're going to keep running him out there. He's probable, right? I think he has an injury designation tonight, toe injury.
Kleber, I think he's playing. Yeah, probable. I assume. I think he's good to go. I didn't see Q.
Yeah, just probable. But he's had the same injury for a while, so definitely monitor that. But I do think that he's going to play. I think they'll continue to start him. Did have people mentioning the Ben Simmons stuff because he'll be back tonight. I think that he probably just takes away Dinwiddie's minutes as the point guard. I think that they like Dennis Smith Jr. for the defense out there. Obviously, having Lonnie Walker, Cam Johnson, and Dorian Finney-Smith all out kind of opens up some 3-4 minutes, so he could kind of fill all of the way like 1 through 5. I don't think that it takes enough upside off of these value guys for me to get off of them. Yeah, I think Dinwiddie is probably the most affected by Ben Simmons returning.
I like it. Good shout there. Let's keep it going. Next game on the slate. Those first 2 games definitely important. This third game, my least favorite game of the slate. Magic Heat, 213 total. Miami favored by 3. Everybody, both teams completely healthy. Low total, very low total actually. 2 healthy teams. I mean, these prices look pretty fair to me. You're talking about pivots off of like a Royce O'Neal. So the guy I'll throw out, Jonathan Isaac. Start with him if you have any interest. I mean, I'm in love with the guy as a player. Like if he got 25 minutes or whatever, sign me up. Unfortunately, he doesn't get 25 minutes. I always do prefer him on FanDuel where he has that stock upside. I think he's still a fine FanDuel play. Small forward eligibility today as well. But an interesting pivot on DK. Again, I prefer him on FanDuel. I think he might get a little ownership over there. It's really all I'm seeing in this game. Like, I guess if I landed on a Rozier, a Bam, a Franz, a Jimmy, you're getting different on a 6-game slate. But, man, I think full fade in this game, make it a 5-game slate also is definitely a solid idea as well. What do you see?
Yeah, I'll just start with Jonathan Isaac. I don't really have a ton of interest in him necessarily. Does project as a slightly negative value. He just doesn't take enough shot attempts for me. I guess the rebounding rates have been pretty good. He needs to kind of get there from steals and blocks efficiently type games. I don't necessarily think that I will be going there just with this team getting pretty much all their guys back. Yeah, I agree with you. I love him as a player. Really fun to watch. Just an awesome defender. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, this game is a pretty clear cross-off to me. Just gonna be one of the slowest pace, lowest scoring games. I guess if you wanted to get into this game a little bit, there are a few guys in the Magic that do stand out to me. Franz Wagner, very cheap, 7.1K. I mean, nothing really stands out about the matchup. Just him really just being too cheap. 7.1K for him. He's kind of a upper 7Ks to 8K type player. But minutes will be creeping up. 35, 36. Last 2 games put up 38 points against Detroit. So I think that he's okay at 7.1K. And then Jalen Suggs, I like a little bit. The Miami Heat are very vulnerable to catch and shoot guys, and Jalen Suggs is the Orlando's really their only option in that category. I just don't know if what the true ceiling for him is, but 4.9K, I guess he's kind of a pivot to some of the guys in the same range, like the Dennis Smith Jr., Amon Thompson, but definitely prefer those other guys a lot more. But I think that Jalen Suggs is a fine option. Outside of that, though, not really looking to get into this game. I think with Miami getting all their guys back, they got Duncan back tonight, they got Ty Hero back tonight, so they could run a pretty deep rotation.
Yeah, I'm not going to add anything else. I definitely won't have much interest or exposure in this game at all. 3 games down, 3 games to go. Appreciate everyone. 230 hanging out with us. Appreciate that like button. Let's try and get up to 100 likes. I know a lot filing in. Don't like asking very much. 2 seconds out of your day, like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate it a lot, bringing you shows for free on this channel almost every single day. If you don't want to join us, we have weekly, monthly, 6-month, and annual packages. MMA going on 11 weeks straight. Waste Management Open starts on Thursday. NHL, NBA, Super Bowl Sunday. We have you covered. All sports, one price, low price, weekly, monthly, 6 months, annual. Get in the Discord if you do join the monthly, 6-month, and annual package as well. Get a lot of these very sharp minds that are in the YouTube chat every single day in the Discord talking at all times of the day. Keep it rolling. Next game, I did mention the 3 low total games, this Memphis-New York game, Minnesota-Chicago, Orlando-Miami, and how I don't have interest in really them compared to the other 3. However, this Knicks side definitely is the outlier, and we'll get some ownership. Grizzlies-Knicks, 212 total. Knicks big favorites sitting at about 15. Injury report in this one, both sides is pretty important. Memphis, Jaren Jackson's doubtful. Xavier Tillman's doubtful. Vince Williams questionable. John Conchar questionable. Santi Aldama questionable. And they will be without Zaire Williams, Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane. Derrick Rose is questionable too. All right, let me go back over that again. Jaren Jackson doubtful. Xavier Tillman doubtful. Vince Williams, John Conchar, Santi Aldama, Derrick Rose, all QT. Then they're still without Smart, Bane, Ja, etc. New York side of the ball, no OG and no Julius Randle. Also no Quentin Grimes. So, man, a lot to unpack here. Assuming that some of these Q tags, or at least most of them, play for Memphis, I think they're an easy fade. They still have enough bodies. They still all eat into each other, play team ball. Like, nothing stands out on the Memphis side, assuming most of those Q tags are in. So that's a fade for me. Knicks side, though, obviously, without Randle, without OG, they play their guys a ton of minutes. Man, you got to look at some of these guys for value. 6 guys, I think, in play. And that is Jalen Brunson, Hartenstein, Dante DiVincenzo, Precious, Miles McBride, Josh Hart. How I rank them, at least ownership-wise, I think probably Dante. I mean, Dante's been on fire. He's got to be the highest owned. Precious probably after that in terms of ownership. I'll let you take it from there. I think Brunson's definitely going to get some ownership, but he might get squeezed. Like, I think Sengun probably comes in a little higher than Brunson. What are your thoughts on that? And then take away this Knicks side and Memphis.
Sweet. So I'll just touch on the Memphis side really quick, because I think that if these Q tags are ruled in, I don't think that you get to any of these guys really. They have a pretty, they have a lot of guys, and they could probably play all of them mid to 20s minutes, upper 20s minutes. I don't think that any of these guys would really stand out. This is a terrible matchup versus the Knicks. They've been really good defensively. The Knicks side, though, much more interesting, like you said. I do think that Brunson probably comes in much lower owned than some of these other spend-ups like SGA, like Sengun. He's definitely going to get squeezed in that range. I don't think that I think it'll still come in double digits, probably 10 to 12, I would say. But I do prefer those other guys a little bit better. if those Memphis guys, the main rotation pieces, are out, then this spread probably reaches close to 20 points. It's gonna be very similar to when Memphis played Boston. Was really off of all the Boston guys. I know Tatum had a good game, Porzingis had a good game, but it wasn't really enough for you to, if you didn't have them, it didn't kill your lineup or anything like that. So I think I kind of view New York the same way tonight, especially at this ownership. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo going to be close to 50% owned at 7.4K. I get it. The matchup is really good. This Grizzlies team is a JV team pretty much. They can't defend anything. But if this game blows out, I mean, how quickly do they go to the bench guys? I know Tibbs is very, he's going to run he's going to run Brunson, DiVincenzo, Hart, Hartenstein, Precious out there for close to 40 minutes in a close game. But I could see this game getting out of hand probably very, very quickly. And these guys, this would be a perfect time to give them more of a rest with how many minutes they've been playing lately. So I'm kind of going to take an underweight stance on them. I think that my favorite play on the Knicks is Isaiah Hartenstein. He's got huge rebounding upside in this game. The Grizzlies, they barely cracked 90 points last game. They gave up 40 rebounds to the Celtics. I think that very likely that Hartenstein has, 12 to 15 rebounds. Oh, Jericho Sims just got ruled out. It doesn't really change a ton, but it is a backup center. They do have Taj Gibson though, so he probably fills in some of those backup center minutes. I don't think that really changes much. I'll just continue on. I think that Hartenstein is probably my favorite play, and then all these other guys are definitely in consideration. Achua playing a ton of minutes, DiVincenzo, Hart playing a ton of minutes. Obviously, Brunson, huge scoring upside in this matchup, but almost 10K. I prefer Sengun for less or SGA for a little bit more. And I also mentioned Miles McBride. He's been playing more minutes as of late as well. Been overlapping a little bit with Jalen Brunson, which was not the case earlier in the season. He was just filling in the backup point guard minutes, but with no Grimes, he's going to have to play alongside him as well. He could get there in a blowout. 3.7K, totally fine price tag for him.
Did you mention Josh Hart? He was the only other Knick. 41, 37, 42, 39 minutes, 16, 10, 6, 7 shot attempts. I mean, obviously cardio is not the right word for him, but he plays off ball, stands in the corner more so when it's Randall and Brunson. But without Randall, OG, a couple more shot attempts. Any interest there?
Yeah, I think he's fine. 6.3K. He's got a really big rebounding upside as well. He's had double digits in 4 straight games with no Randall. So I think that he's totally fine. Definitely need him to get double-digit points so you can get that double-double bonus. I do prefer Hartenstein, though, but I guess the small forward, power forward eligibility is nice. But, I mean, Precious Achua projecting better from what I'm seeing at 500 cheaper. So ownership
will be there, too.
Yeah.
Heart will break your heart. Yeah, I will admit he's definitely not the most fun like a guy like Cam Thomas. At least he can be not a fun roster when he misses everything, but at least he'll chuck. Guys like Josh Hart, if it's a snowflake early, especially 6.3K, he's not someone that's hitting ISOs, calling ISOs for himself down the court. So I do get that for sure. Hartenstein or Claxton? I think you're going to say Hartenstein, but it's 700 difference. You like Hartenstein?
Yeah.
Okay. No Memphis unless some of these Q tags are out. Again, if all those Q tags were to be out, well, I'm going to look at our projections and see what that does. It'll be updated throughout the night, etc. But all of these Q tags out on Memphis side, something's probably changed. But assuming at least a couple of them are in, I think you get away from Memphis. Some of these Knicks in play, but Rio did mention reasons to be a little hesitant. Huge spread. And does Archie Diacono find his first point? What was it, 20 games in a row the dude hasn't scored? Is today the day?
I did see that on Twitter. It could be. I don't know. That's been funny though. I've been seeing the way Ryan Arcidiacono supports his teammates versus the way that they talk about him. it's funny. Geeked.
But he was one of my favorite college. I love Villanova, Jay Wright, Dante, all the guys won some money on the national champ. So I loved Ryan Arcidiacono back in the day. But hey, he's getting paid to be in the NBA and travel as like a 5'11" whitey. So go for you, Ryan Arcidiacono. Go for you.
Let me mention something on the Memphis side real quick. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Just because if all these guys are out, I did want to mention. I guess this is kind of narrative based, but Matt Hurt. This is the last day of his 10-day contract, so maybe they give him some extra run. He played 30 minutes last game, 3.8K. He's a shooter. I mean, he went 0 for 6 last night, so obviously he's not that good of a shooter. But yeah, if all these guys are out, last day of the 10-day contract, maybe he gets a ton of run tonight.
Hey, good shout there. He still could be a lights out shooter and just had a rough night. Who knows? And then I saw your Clay thing too. Clay is definitely a real one. We won't get into that, but gotta love Clay. Telling it how it is. 2 games left. Minnesota, Timberwolves, Chicago Bulls, 217 total. Timberwolves 5.5-point favorites. Injury report in this one, nothing on the Minnesota side. As far as the Chicago side, we have Caruso questionable and Patrick Williams out. Monzo was getting up shots yesterday, so that was good to see. Maybe one day he'll be back. But Caruso, QT, Pat Will is out. And yeah, this is kind of similar to the Orlando-Miami game, where if I had to cross off a game, I think this would be the second one I cross off. OKC, Utah later. I don't have as much interest in, but I like Houston. I like the Brooklyn side a lot. I like New York side a lot. Like, I'm not really sure what of these Timberwolves or Bulls I'd play over them. Cat, Gobert. I guess Gobert is interesting. Should get squeezed a bit in between Hartenstein, the Claxton, the Senguns. Center's a good position. Maybe he is my favorite play, but probably is just one of the Ants, DeRozans, Vooch, Towns, Gobert, one of the studs, pretty low ownership. Do you have any strong leans?
Yeah, my interest on this game kind of just resides on the Timberwolves side of things. The Bulls have been pretty solid defensively in the new year. They're ranked 12th overall in defensive rating, but they are allowing they're dead last in catch and shoot defense. They're allowing a ton of 3-pointers per game, third most 3-pointers in 2024. The Wolves are really just not a team I'm looking to attack in DFS. I think that, you know, if you are keeping some of these guys in your player pool, it's Vooch, DeMar, Kobe White, the main big 3. But I think normally I'd be max 2. I think tonight I'm max 1. And then if Caruso misses, I think that probably gives – I mean, I would assume I was playing a ton of minutes right now, so I don't think that he's the craziest thing to keep your player pool, 5.6K, been playing really well. But if Caruso misses, probably see Torrey Craig get some more minutes. Maybe, you know, Julian Phillips, Dan Terry. I don't know too much about those guys, but they would probably fill in some more minutes for Caruso. But I don't think that you're really running to play any of these Bulls guys regardless of the Caruso news. I think it does affect.
No Torrey Craig. Sorry, you're right on that topic. So even if Caruso's out, you don't got to click Torrey Craig. You agree with that, right?
Yeah, I think so. He's going to be like very slowly ramped up. He was out for a really long time with his injuries. So I think that he's not going to step back into 30 minutes anytime soon. But the Caruso news does affect Anthony Edwards a good bit. They will definitely put Caruso on Edwards, and if he's out, then he'll see a much weaker defender. I mean, I would assume he'll probably would get the assignment, pretty solid defender, but I mean, Caruso has been pretty locked down in his career. I think that the spot would get much better for Ant, 8.4K, but as it stands right now, I prefer Karl-Anthony Towns to him, 7.9K, for the reasons I mentioned about the Bulls being dead last in catch and shoot, points allowed per game. Cat is their best off-ball catch and shoot guy. So I think that he's got some pretty big upside in this matchup. Very similar to, the Miles Bridges game from the other night where he had a huge game against them. Different story. Cat doesn't have the same usage as Bridges with LaMelo Ball, Rozier out, but very similar matchup in a lot of the ways. And then Rudy Gobert, like you mentioned, I think he's a really strong center option, 6.9K. The Bulls are a bottom 5 pick and roll defense to roll men. So guys that are setting screen roll into the basket, which is obviously Rudy Gobert's game offensively pretty much. A lot of his offensive upside is very tied to Mike Conley. They have a really good 2-man game. So I think Gobert has some sneaky upside in this one. I guess modest ownership, 15%. But I like him and Karl-Anthony Towns the best in this one. And then talking about pivots to Royce O'Neal, Naz Reid is one of the guys I'm a little bit interested in as a pivot off of Royce O'Neal tonight. He's the Wolves' second best catch and shoot option behind Karl-Anthony Towns. We know what type of upside Naz has coming off the bench. He's had 30 a couple times in the past couple games, 26 last game, 30 against Dallas. Going to see around 22 to 26 minutes regardless. So I think that he's a pretty solid pivot off of the Royce O'Neal. And then, like I said, I'm not too excited about anyone in particular on the Bulls side.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Bulls side. I never am interested. Vooch would probably be my favorite. I mean, there's so many of these centers, the Claxton, Hartensteins, I already said Senguns, the Goberts of the world, Claxtons of the world, Miles Turner, Precious. Some of these do have power forward eligibility as well, but I think it's a pretty strong two-center night. Definitely not a must by any means, but I'll be looking at Vooch as a contrarian spend, looking at Gobert. I like your Nas shout. Again, you can play him at power forward, very low own, pivot off of Royce O'Neal. I think that all makes a lot of sense. Good shot on Ant. Like who knows when we'll get this news. This game's at 8 Eastern. A lot of the games lock at 7:30. Just say we don't have the Caruso news by the time that game's locked. Like, Ant's fine regardless. It would be a plus if Caruso was out. If you like Ant at 8-4, though, don't be like, oh, I got to pivot somewhere just because Caruso's in if you have Ant and only a couple spots left. So it is a good point, though. You would give him a boost if Caruso was out. I think Towns, Gobert, yeah. Nothing really has changed for me. Any Jaden McDaniels thoughts as a punt? You mentioned Nas Reed. You mentioned Royce O'Neal, too, kind of in that same range, small forward eligible.
Yeah, I mean he's fine. I don't think he has the same upside as Royce O'Neal in for 200 cheaper, but you really would just need Royce to fail and McDaniels to outscore him by a few points if you're pivoting, which I don't think is as likely, but I think that he's fine. 3.9K, solid value option.
I like it. We got one game left. R. Stanley, 788. Love to see that. Appreciate you hanging in here. Hope everything's going well. We are very excited to have you at the Nation. One game left on the slate. Remember, 6 games on DK. FanDuel is including Phoenix and the Bucks. We're not going to talk about that game. We will have projections, showdown core reports, our GPP core reports, cash reports on FanDuel. Obviously, we'll include that game if someone needs to be in there. But we will touch on these 6 games, DraftKings 6 games, FanDuel, including the last game of the night. 270 watching. Appreciate all 271 of you out there. Hope y'all having a good day. To make our day just a little better, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. Helps us out a ton. We do appreciate it very much so. Last game of the night, OKC Thunder, Rio's Utah Jazz, 239 total. OKC favored by 3.5. Injury report, on the Utah side, Ochai Agbaji is questionable. Doesn't do much for me. OKC side, a lot of Q tags. None of them I'm going to be waiting around for, though. Like, if we don't have this news, this game on an island at 9 Eastern, so be it. But Jalen Williams, Q tag, that's important. Carson Wallace, Isaiah Joe, the other Jalen Williams, Dieng and Micic and Bertans. What the heck is going on? And Lindy Waters. Let me repeat all this. Not that Bertans and some of these guys matter, but actually I'll say what matters at the Q tag, even though they have like 8 guys listed Q. Jalen Williams, I guess somewhat Q tag is the bad Jalen Williams. Isaiah Joe's out. Carson Wallace Q tag, he's been getting run. Jalen Williams, the good Jalen Williams Q tag, that does matter. If we don't have this news before lock, though, nothing changes for me. I guess my favorite by far is SGA. Like, if Jalen Williams is out, SGA would be even a better play. If Jalen Williams is in, he's a fine play. People won't really have time to adjust. 10.5K, solid there. I think Chet, another center play, low owned. I think he's fine at 7.5, gets a bump, usage bump if Jalen Williams is out. Outside of that, though, not much on the OKC side, and I'm definitely not talking about the Jazz over you, so take the Jazz side away.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I think that I have a lot more interest in this game than you do, just because I've watched a ton of OKC games lately this year. Obviously, I keep close eye on the Jazz. I know these teams have very big weaknesses in their defenses, and then pair that with the Thunder possibly being shorthanded tonight with all of these guys listed questionable. I do agree with you, though, the Case and Wallace one, and obviously Jalen Williams is the biggest one, but I mean, Case and Wallace kind of a big one too. He started off really hot last game against the Raptors, was shooting really well, and then he didn't play a ton of minutes. I believe it's a shoulder injury, kind of just the minutes tapered off, but that really opened up a lot of minutes for Josh Giddey, who I already like in this matchup. As it is, just the Jazz they're dead last in transition defense, kind of an area that Josh Giddey can really thrive in those types of games, against like Washington, Atlanta, like teams like that. So I like the spot a lot for Josh Giddey here. He's not going to come in with any ownership. I'm seeing less than 3% right now. Obviously, I love SGA as a spend-up option. I think that he's probably the top spend-up option for me tonight. He's had a really successful career against the Jazz. scoring wise, but he hasn't really, he has not topped 51 DK points in the 2 games that they played this year. But SGA is just playing on another level right now. Has 56 plus DK points in 6 of his last 8 games. 5 of those games were in the 60s. Jazz, obviously a terrible transition defense. I think that SGA comes out really aggressive and puts up a big score. And I like him as my top spend up tonight. And I don't know if how likely it is that Jalen Williams is playing tonight. He missed 2 or 3 games with the ankle injury. He was at shoot around this morning, I believe. I would expect some sort of minutes limit on him if he plays tonight. But if we get word that he's going to be a full go, then I think that he's a fine option at 7K. Really solid transition scorer as well. And then Lou Dort, I think, is another guy you can use as a pivot off of Royce O'Neal. I would not expect another 40-point game out of him. I don't know how many more times he'll do that in his career. It took him 41 minutes to get there, so that's less than a fantasy point a minute. But
he shot the ball more than SGA. Like, when is that ever going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I doubt the Jazz would run a similar type defensive scheme, but the Raptors were just throwing double teams at SGA the whole night. It really opened up a lot of offense for these off-ball guys, kind of why Casey Wallace started off really hot. Jazz don't really do that as much. I think that the Jazz do run a pretty heavy zone scheme, which is kind of a reason why that they're towards the bottom of the league in catch and shoot points allowed per game. And with Isaiah Joe out right now, Lou Dort is their best option as an off-ball catch and shoot guy. So I think that 4.3K, he's got a pretty good matchup, and I like him as a pivot to Royce O'Neal as well. Now, granted, when I say that, I think in a single entry to 3 max, you're playing Royce O'Neal, but I'm talking about 20 max, 150 max, mixing in some Lou Dort and Naz Reid type of plays makes a lot of sense. And then if Jalen Williams misses again, and I guess some of these secondary guys miss, then you could look to Aaron Wiggins tonight, 3.5K. He's been playing a lot more lately. 3.5K is a really good price tag for him, so I think that he is very much in play as a value option regardless, but much better if these secondary guys miss. And then on the Jazz side, the way that OKC has been getting beat right now, they're second worst in catch and shoot points allowed, and they're also allowing a ton of rebounds right now. They're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, and that kind of gets me onto guys like John Collins, Walker Kessler a little bit, even Lauri Markkanen. He's seen his rebounding numbers tick up at times. But Lauri Markkanen, he's the best catch and shoot guy in the league, averages the most points per game in catch and shoot. I like him a lot. 8.6K, going to be pretty low on sub 10%. I like this game environment a lot, so I think that he's kind of the only person we know on the Jazz to see, mid 30s minutes. He saw 36 last game against Milwaukee. I think that he sees around that in a close game here as well. I think these guards are in play as well. Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, Keontae George would probably be max 2 of the 3. Probably max 1, Colin Sexton and Keontae George. I would even consider being max 1 of the guards. But yeah, Keontae George been playing much better lately. Had one of his best games as a pro against Milwaukee. Had 19 points, 10 rebounds, 2 assists, 7 of 13 shooting. Been playing much better since he shifted to a bench role. Could have some more upside in this game. Fast-paced matchup, 3.9K, good price tag for him. I wonder if people will kind of flock to him more after the big game. I know I benefit from it a lot. I had a ton of him in my 20 max, 150 max. Ended up getting 9th in the lotto with him at 3%. So I don't, I hopefully I don't run to play him again for that reason. But I do think that these guards are in play. And then I think that John Collins is kind of a good option as well at 6.1K. I don't think that they'll go to Kessler in this matchup with this team playing much more fast-paced. I think that's more John Collins' game. So I think that he makes some sense in this matchup. Pretty decent off-ball shooter as well.
Great breakdown. I wouldn't be worried. If you like Keontae George, he's not going to be like 3% by any means, but with Amen Thompson and Miles McBride, you can even throw Aaron Holiday down there as well. Mainly Thompson or McBride, though. They're definitely going to be higher owned than Keontae George is, and those games are early. So, 2 last things on this game. You didn't anything on Chet, and then assuming we don't have any of these like if Jalen Williams, we got news right now, full go, good to go. I'm good with him at 7K for sure. Like Carson Wallace is out, all these guys. But assuming we have no OKC news, like Giddey, you're still fine playing, it sounds like, because he's still going to get there. And yeah, he got almost all the Carson Wallace run. Wallace played, 3 minutes in the third quarter and never saw the floor again after that. Giddey came in for him and pretty much played everything outside of like a couple minutes, even in double OT in that one as well. So 5.9K. If I knew they were going to be in all these guys, I wouldn't want Giddey. He'll still low own. He can still get there. Now, this game an hour after the other ones, if we don't have this news, he's going to be very low owned. And if the news does break your way, you could be sitting pretty there. So chat thoughts. And then if we have no OKC news prior to the second last game locking, what are you going to do on this game?
I can't see myself getting to Chet over Nick Claxton, over Rudy Gobert, Isaiah Hartenstein. Even I would put him behind Miles Turner, obviously Sengun, spend up option. I think that he's probably 6th or 7th on the list in terms of centers. So I don't think that I'm really looking to go there. And what was the second thing you said?
Assuming no Q tags, you're good with Giddey regardless if we don't have any of these Q tags. But assuming we have no news on these guys, like you're not going to be plugging in Aaron Wiggins. Are you still fine plugging in Lou Dort? Like I have a hard time believing you plug in Jalen Williams with the unknown there. This game an hour after all the other ones. So just like broad roster construction thoughts like that, assuming we have no news.
Yeah, I think all these guys are fine regardless if those questionable guys are in, because it's Micic, who is just a backup point guard, probably sees 10 minutes. Jalen Williams, backup center, probably going to see 15 minutes or so. Lindy Waters, not really in the rotation. Usman Jang, not really in the rotation. I think the biggest one is the Cason Wallace and obviously Jalen Williams. So I think that all these guys that you are considering are fine plays regardless, and they would just get much better if multiple of these guys were to be out, is kind of how I'm approaching it. Yeah, I almost want to bring up Josh Giddey's game log versus Utah because it's actually insane, but I don't want to be super game log watchy. But I mean, he's had every single time he's played the Jazz, he's gone off against them. Obviously, different situations earlier in his career, different teams in 2021, 2023, last year, but he's gone off against the team every time that they've played.
Huh. Interesting. That's all 6 games. So I'll touch on the FanDuel Phoenix Milwaukee really quick, and that's because I think on FanDuel it's probably a fade. There is important news on the Milwaukee side. Lillard and Brook are Q tags, so that can change some stuff. Like if both of them got ruled out right now, I think some of these guys on the Bucks. I mean, Giannis is all the way up to 12-1. Phoenix is healthy. Damian Lee's out. Nothing on them. So they have Beal, KD, Booker, the whole crew. I don't think you get to anyone on Phoenix. I think it's probably just Giannis or bust on the Milwaukee side, assuming all these Q tags are in. But I still prefer more of the balanced build on FanDuel. There's a lot of Luka's way up there too, but like there's Brunson, there's the Senguns, there's a lot of those Goberts, the Ants, the Towns. There's so many mid-tier guys. I think right now I don't plan on getting all the way up to Giannis, and I don't think if Dame and Brook are out, I think then you can make it work a little bit. But man, if we don't get this news, which I doubt we do, this game even an hour after the OKC Utah game, I think it's a full fade, and you pretend pretty much on FanDuel it's like DK in a 6-game slate. So that's my quick thoughts there on FanDuel. 6 games DK, 7 on FanDuel. Projections updated throughout the night. Like always, core report, cash reports, slate plan. Slate plan's already up. Go check out Rio's work there. Showdown core reports, rankings as well. Slate plan, that'll be up tonight for that Bucks and Suns game. Great stuff as always, Rio. Any final thoughts for the people?
No, let's stay hot. Couple more days till we head out to Arizona. So looking forward to that. But yeah, we've had a ton of success past couple days. So let's keep it going. Definitely building up some momentum going into All-Star break. So looking forward to tonight's slate and the rest of the week.
Yep, absolutely. Rio and I will be back tomorrow. A lot going on tomorrow. We'll have our MMA show again. All of us will be out at the Waste Management in Phoenix this week. So be on the lookout for the schedule. We'll set up projections, core report stuff. Be on the lookout for the show schedule, though. Tomorrow will be the last NBA show. We will pick it back up on Monday. Showdown, of course, for NFL will be recorded. MMA going on tomorrow as always. So look out for that. You guys will be covered. Rio and I talking hoops for nice Wednesday slate tomorrow, the big 888 is going on. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Hit that like on the way out. Hit that subscribe on the way out. Have a great night. Let's make some money. Let's see some SHIPIT Nation logos up top. For my man Rio, I'm Titletown. Be safe. Have a good one.